Hello, and welcome back to the Dungeons & Dragons Podcast UK. My name is Yasmin, and I will be the DM.
Hi, my name's Colin, and I play Cuin de Greymont, a paladin from Gavany.
Hi, I'm Spencer. I play Caddo Chasseur, a cleric also from Gavany.
Hi, I'm Brian, and I play Ogvar Shawfoot, a ranger from Kessig.
Hi, my name is Samantha, and I play Elora Greyvale, a sorcerer from Nephalia. Our gregarious paladin was far more gassy than usual as he permeated his way beyond the barricade to suss out the situation. Upon finally gaining access, the companions begin a search of the storeroom on the trail of relic recovery. Caddo frisked the beds, and in the traditional time-honoured fashion of finders keepers, lightly fingered a ring and acquired a frigid digit. Meanwhile, in another corner of the small space, Esther had an emotional outpouring as Ogvar expressed his gentle and gallant side once more, offering her a sturdy shoulder to cry on. This prompted Elora to extend an impassioned pledge that together they would seek retribution on those responsible for the immoral and reprehensible wickedness they had discovered. Episode 73, Cruel Criminals and Maligned Monsters.
So just to go over a recap, you won't know what these items are, which you've found in the crates, but just so you know what came out, there was a pair of boots. There was a white, what looked like a white bundle of fabric with some silver inlay on it. If you probably in the process of packing it into a bag or wherever you packed, putting it into Orland, you'd have taken note and noticed that it was a cloak. There was a mug which had liquid in but mysteriously didn't fall out. There was in a kind of jar, in what looks like some kind of solution, an eyeball. There was a fake flower.
A fake flower?
As in petals.
Or self-raising.
And what exactly would a fake flower be? A white powder.
I'm going to spelt it out for you.
We found the Innistrad drugs for you.
It was brilliant. Come on.
This is getting very corny.
Oh dear. That is also...
Talk about self-praising.
Oh no! Somebody make it stop.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be a pain in the ass.
Oh.
Right, no.
Brilliant. Jesus.
Are we making a whole meal out of this?
Oh.
That's it. Right, there's no flowers left. Brilliant.
Please can we move on?
Okay.
We're all chuckling again.
When I say fake flower, it is like a kind of like a brooch almost. It's not backed onto silver, but it's got like almost like a kind of like a fastening on it, and it is clearly a fake flower. It's got fabric petals. It's like a kind of like a white lily type looking flower. But the white petals are kind of tipped with silver, and the stem is made of silver. It's a fake flower, and it looks like it'd be worn as a brooch, or on the lapel of clothing. There is a small bag, and this small bag is probably about palm sized. It's very small. And when you touch it, there's a slight silver residue which comes off it, but it is tied tight. There is a long sword, a silver long sword, very ornate looking, very ostentatious. It's got the symbol of Avacyn kind of on the crossguard, and all over the kind of the hilt and the grip. It's got these kind of holy symbols. It's got kind of like carved feathers, and the actual kind of hilt of it. It's kind of like this. When I say like kind of Arkenstone-y type looking jewel, it's this kind of jewel which is very kind of blue with this almost like kind of core which glows on itself. There is a.
Just me then.
There is a small, battered-looking book. Very battered-looking, but it's kind of like a pocket-sized book. There is a feather.
When you say battered, do you mean no?
Oh no, we're not going back to the flower again.
This feather has got. Yeah, this feather's got like a slight bluey silver sheen in, but it is a white feather. And then there is a flute, and it's made of, you can tell it's made of mahogany, this very dark wood with silver fittings. And on the front of it there is a wolf carved into the body. Yeah, so it's like a little kind of wolf which is carved in. So if you imagine where the kind of the mouthpiece is, right by where you'd have your mouth kind of just onto the main body, there's like a little carved wolf head which stands proud.
So I take it when you blow it, you go.
Oh no! Wolf whistle, seriously?
So,
Oh dear.
just to clarify, to move on, boots, white fabric cloak, a mug that liquid doesn't come out of, a jar with an eyeball suspended in some fluid, a silver sort of a brooch that looks like a lily, sort of fake flower, a small bag that's palm sized that's got sort of silver residue on it but sealed up, a long sword that's very ornate with lots of magic symbols on it. Holy symbols on it. A small battered book, a white feather that's got a blue silver sheen to it, and your wolf whistle flute.
Yeah, there was two swords, two long swords.
No,
No, only one, I think.
I did originally
One
say
sword,
there were
two.
two long swords. There is one other sword there as well. I'm sorry. Yes, well done.
Is that? Oh, okay.
So that's just
It's a
normal
long
sword.
sword,
It's a
which
bog standard long sword.
it's got something about it, but you're not really sure what.
A long sword. Okay.
Okie dokie.
And then there's the silver ornate Avacyn one with the blue.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Right,
just a
brilliant. Right,
recap.
that's the
I believe
contents
you
of the
put
crate
all
then.
of them into Orland, so you'd have probably all seen these as they were going in, or commented on them as they were going in, or when you were picking them off the floor. So you'd have all seen these items. They'd gone into the bag. You don't know what they are just by looking at them, but you've made the assumption that these are relics of the church. It's very easy, conclusion to jump to that one, and you can probably say it's very true. Okay, so you are now all stood inside this room, this big kind of boxy room with a high ceiling, and you've collected everything up. Everything's been put into Orland that needs to be, and Elora, you have just finished melting the locks on the door, and all of you can hear the kind of spattering, hissing sound of this acid just melting through this metal and just dripping onto the floor. And every time one of these locks finally melts through, you get this clunking sound as the door kind of partially releases.
Okay, guys. I think we're through this door. I think it's open now. I'm gonna just turn. Does it have a knob or it has a handle or whatever kind of handle it has? I'm going to try and turn it or pull it and just see if the door is then free and just peer outside and see just a crack, see what's through there. Try and find out
this
where
door,
we are.
when you go to turn the handle, it's kind of a ring handle type affair. So you grab onto the ring and you turn it and it raises the latch. But as it raises the latch, you notice that this latch is also connected via a vertical piece of metal to two other latches, which also lift. So they've got kind of three latches on this door. So you turn it and you get this as it turns and the lock comes free, and you're very easily able to just kind of swing the door open slightly. How far are you opening the door? Are you looking through a crack, or are you just kind of...
Yeah, no, just a couple of inches so I can look out to see where the door comes out to. So as not to draw attention to anybody if there's anybody outside.
So when you swing the door open, it's through this little crack, you can see outside. And it's still bright. It was bright when you entered the church. It hasn't been that long time since you kind of came down into this. You'd say it was actually probably its use was intended as a warehouse of sorts for storing goods. But as you look out, you can see that you are kind of this wall is almost set into a door. This door is almost set into a wall. Sorry. So when you look out, you can see almost straight onto the waterfront. You have in front of you there is like a wooden pier type affair. You can see where the ground, obviously they've built out of the land. So there's wooden, like a wooden walkway. They've extended the reach of the land, and you can see out onto the water this kind of choppy grey water, which is almost blending with the horizon. So you can hear the boats in the harbour, you can hear the sound of seagulls, you can hear the sound of ship's bells clanking. And where you are, looking to your left, you can make out from the left-hand side, you can hear the sound of the kind of main harbour area. So you can hear the sound of people chattering, you can hear the sound of crates being moved, you can hear the sound of the occasional whisper of song, bawdy tavern music on the wind. And judging from that, you could probably say that kind of towards your left is the main harbour area, where you kind of came out of the underground arena the previous night. You'd say that was that area over there. To your right, you cannot hear anything of particular note, but you can see that it carries on a little way round a slight curve, and you can see like this big kind of sewer grate type affair with water coming out of it. So you can say that where you probably are, you're probably down by the harbour, a little further along the right, around the tip of, around the kind of harbour area, perhaps secluded round a corner.
Okay. Elora is just going to quietly close the door back up again. Guys, this... Right, we're actually on the harbour. We're not far from the main part of the harbour. There's like a jetty outside, and there's boats, and we're just at the harbour.
So basically, anywhere you go underground in this city, you end up at the harbour.
Well, it does seem that way, but this has got to be some kind of warehouse, whether it be an old one that's disused that people have forgotten about, I don't know. But the important thing here is we've got to get all this stuff back to the church, these artefacts and items. We know that they belong there. We've got clues. We've got a letter with a seal that goes higher up in the city from Axum. There's a lot more going on with this than we had imagined. But moreover than that, this thing, this were-rat person thing, whatever it is, well, it's still out there. It's, you know, when it needs to feed, is it going to lure people down here again? I mean, it must have lured these people in to start with. I mean,
well, and to think about it, Elora, you've just had to burn the locks off from the inside.
Yeah, but that's
that would suggest it's still in here.
Yes, but that's what I was just about to say. It's locked itself in from the inside, which means it must have gone out in rat form because the barricade was still in place. So it must have got out that way, which means that if it comes back to get all this stuff, it's coming back the way that we've come in.
Well, unless we've missed an exit somewhere.
Yeah, but
we were going very fast in those trucks.
We didn't really see anything else. We didn't detect anything else.
I mean, going that fast in those trucks, we could have gone past stuff, couldn't we?
Right,
Yes,
but the
you had a
point
bat on
here...
your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's quite possible, yeah. But the point I'm making is we can't leave this thing. We've got to track it down. And it could be in the tunnels. We didn't... I don't know where it might be. But the thing is, the tunnels are dark. I don't see very well in the dark, and I don't think any of you guys do. If you light something and go hunting for it, it's going to see you coming. And if it's in a small rat form, it could easily slip past us.
But it wasn't small, was it? It wasn't small.
No, but
though,
it
was
must have been small to get through the barricades.
It couldn't have got through the barricade.
But it must have done, because it's locked itself in, and unless it's still in this room...
Unless there's another exit that we've missed.
Well, Laura, you've got to remember the door you see, the keyholes both sides, so they could quite easily just slip out and lock the door behind them on their way.
Right, well, I don't know. What do you want to do?
Well, I think our options are we wait for this thing to come back, which could take an awful long time, couldn't it?
Well, it's going to know we're here, because I've just melted the locks.
Yeah, or we go and update the bishop on what we found.
Do you reckon Pickle could pick out the scent?
Pick up its scent. Or, I mean, we could try. I mean, we could give that a try. I mean, there's a lot of scents around a dock area, so he's going to struggle with it.
Do you not
I imagine
think...
there's an awful lot of rat scents around a dockyard, but give it a go for you if you want.
Well, you can't leave this thing, whatever it is, this fiend, to just drag people away and kill them, because it's obviously feeding, so it obviously has a need, but...
Yeah, but if we report to the bishop and tell the bishop could leave some people here to deal with it.
Well, you're assuming it's going to come back as soon as it figures out that someone's been here. I mean you
we've-
might be able to catch it if it comes in to investigate whether the stuff's still here. Possibly somebody might be able to catch it.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to remember that ultimately we are just here passing through on our way to Genrix's Tower in service of a greater mission for
Well, I know,
Avacyn.
but we've been kind of embroiled in other things, haven't we?
No, I don't think that I would feel right venturing forth without destroying whatever this is.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
I agree.
And Esther seemed quite upset as well, so...
Well, you can't just have it going around killing. I mean,
well, my money would say then that, assuming it's a man rat thingy, my knowledge would be that happens at night normally. So if this thing is changing into a man-eating rat, that's going to be happening at night time. So
well, possibly, but that's not saying that it isn't locking people in here and holding them prisoner until...
is there somewhere outside the door where we could watch the door to see if it comes back, and then whoever first comes back to the door, we can try and, I don't know, take prisoner and question?
Well, I mean, we can't really go back up through the way we came because it's up a track and you can't push the mine carts up the hill, and you've got all this stuff, so we might as well go out the front door.
Yeah. I'm sorry, there's a way we can watch the door.
There's a sewer grate to the one side, so
that might work.
maybe that's where it lives when it's in rat form. I don't know. I don't know what to make of all this, but it's a bad business, I know that.
Well, yes, it isn't a pleasant room to be in, to be honest. I mean, if we're leaving this room, that would be a good idea. I mean, it's a terrible place, isn't it? I mean, even after we've dealt with the creature, we'll have to let the bishop know about this, because he'll have to come down and give these
Somebody's got to
bodies
deal
some
with it.
sort of burial, won't he?
Are you going to gather up those... Have you got some cloth to gather up those bones in to take back with you?
I think probably the best option is to leave them here and let the bishop deal with them in a more orderly fashion than if we're going to wait for some creature to turn up. We probably don't want to be carrying piles of bones, and I suspect we don't really want to put them into Orland.
Not putting them in the knee.
I don't think Orland would appreciate that.
No, I didn't think he'd like that plan. So I think probably leave them here and report to the bishop that they need dealing with. But I agree with you. We probably need to hang about to see if the creature returns.
Well, somebody needs to catch this thing. What? Have you got any ideas? You got any preferences, Ogvar?
Well, I think the bishop certainly knows more than he initially let on. So I think maybe if we were forthcoming with what we'd found, he may be more inclined to tell us what he knows. Plus, I think leaving the bones here is the better idea. It's obviously the city authorities are possibly not to be trusted. You don't know who's working for who, so best not be caught walking around the city with bones. It might look quite incriminating to ourselves.
Okay, right, I'm feeling uncomfortable here. Esther, let's just pick up... We've got all the stuff. Everybody's put it in Orland, right? Ogvar, you've got Orland. Let's get out of here before anything else goes wrong.
I think probably if we're going to see the bishop, give him his artefacts back, and then say we'd like to come back and watch the place and deal with whatever it is that's been doing the killing. You never know; he might help us out with that.
She may
Maybe he's
may
got
know what
somebody
we're
that
dealing
can do
with.
that. Yeah. Okay, right.
I mean, we've got some daylight to work with. I think. Whatever it is, I can't imagine it coming back until dark. If you're saying that we're outside this door, we're going into the harbour. Most harbours would notice if a half-man, half-rat was dragging human beings into a warehouse.
I mean, the thing is, they do need to catch it because it obviously knows more than we do. We've got clues, but it knows who sent. It's obviously been in contact regarding what's going on here, so it knows who's running the show.
Well, you would have thought so. Yeah, I think probably we want to capture it rather than kill it if we can.
Absolutely.
Certainly, we have picked up the letter, haven't we? Because the bishop will
Yeah,
want to see that.
I've got that.
Yeah.
Laura's popped it in her pocket.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's off to the bishop then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we need to make our way back to the church.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Laura's opening the door. She's stepping out. She wants to
Okay,
get
so
out
you
of
step out. You smell the salt in the air. You can feel the kind of cool dampness of the harbour side. Are you doing any? Are any of you doing anything particular on your way towards the church, or as you step out the door? Is there anything in particular you're doing?
Is there any way of making the door? We can't. There's no way of fixing the lock, is there?
No, she's melted.
No.
How much damage have we done to? Is there
From the
obvious damage
outside.
to the door?
Well, it won't lock.
Apart from the fact it won't lock. I mean, if we pull it to, will it look like it's and drop those 3 latches? Will it at least look like
so
it's
from the
properly closed?
outside, you know that all of the acid damage is on the inside of the door. It's on the inside of the stone frame. All of the acid damage has been done on the inside. When you look at the outside, there is no visible damage whatsoever.
I tell you what, people, from the outside, you can't tell that you melted this lock. We might get away with this.
Would the key still turn in the lock? Will the key still work in the lock?
Right.
The bolts aren't there, but
I don't know. I'm not an expert on locks, but I'd imagine. Certainly, if you walked up to this door from the outside, I mean, as a layman, if I walked up to it, I'd try and open it the way I would normally open it. So as long as we can watch the door from a distance, anybody who tries to open this door, I assume would know what's inside. So we just need to capture somebody trying to open the door, don't we? If we nip back to the bishop, tell him our plan, and then on our way out, I suggest we have a look to find us a decent hiding place so that we can watch the door.
yeah, possibly.
A bit of a scout around to pick a hiding place.
Let's get back up to the church.
Okay.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is
so
not
in answer
nice.
to your question, well, as we're leaving, I'm going to have a look around to see if there's an obvious hiding
Okay,
place
so
for
if
when
you're
we
looking
return.
for an obvious hiding place or a hiding place, you can make me. We're kind of doing a bit of a recon here. You can make me a search check.
Oh, we always like one of those. I don't get anything added to that. Here we go then. First dice roll of the evening. It is a monumental 9.
Well, yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
at least see where I'm going?
Can you swim?
As you leave, to paint a picture of, you as you
Shush,
leave
pickle.
the step out this door, you are stood, and this door is set into a wall, solid stone wall. To your right, it curves slightly and it comes to a dead end. You can see this is almost like a little inlet, almost a slight kind of. You say this area has probably been designed and built around the fact that there's this water outlet, there's this water pipe there. And this is a big pipe, and when you look at it, it's probably about 6 foot in radius, so it's really, really big. And water is gushing out at a fairly steady pace. It's not jetting out, but it is kind of, you'd say it's probably about a foot deep in water as it's pouring out. So as a consequence, there is a fair amount of noise as this water is kind of slapping into the surface of the sea. But this pipe, it hasn't got a grate in it as far as you can see. It's very dark, obviously, and this area doesn't get a lot of, even if there was sunlight, it wouldn't get a lot of it. because this stone wall that this building was set into is, I think it was said about 20 foot high. So it's a very big wall. So you could almost imagine that you've got your water outlet, it comes down, and then it comes round to the left with the main harbour. So this is like very much like an area specifically designed for this water outlet to leave the city. And it just so happens that they've decided that there's going to be, they're going to build some storage, some warehousing there, because it's a nice, convenient place.
Okay. Does the path access the water grate? Would we be able to get to the water grate without too much difficulty? Sorry, water pipe. My poor choice of language. Yeah.
You might be able to get to it. Yeah. It is 6 foot in diameter, so obviously 6 foot across. But there is a gap, obviously, each side, and this grate is probably about 3-4 foot off the surface of the water, so it's quite low down to water level.
So we'd climb down to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Would we be able to see the door from it?
Make me a wisdom check.
That's a better one. I get more numbers on one of those. Oh, 18 all in.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So you're sat there and you've got your your hand up to your forehead, looking like as you would into the middle distance, and you do a bit of squatting, bit of angle checking, and you can probably say that you would be able to see the door from this angle. So you've got your door, there's a bit of a walkway, some wooden jettison where they've kind of expanded the walkway, there's about a 5 foot drop down to water level, and then this pipe is kind of 3-4 foot off the top of the water. So you would be able to see from inside the pipe, you would be able to see up to whoever was opening the door.
Right, okay. And then I take it we've turned left then to actually go down the sort of back towards the main harbour.
Yes, yeah. So you'd have turned left, yeah. And you pass around, and there's another warehouse as you're going round the corner. There's another warehouse.
Shush, pickle.
And this one again, it's you can see the kind of turn latch. It's a very standard turn latch on the door. But you can imagine that it's probably locked up tight. There's probably someone who's got their wares in there.
So I don't know about you guys, but as we've come away from there, it strikes me that if we're going to come back and sort of hide to watch the door, the obvious place is that big water pipe. Because otherwise we're just basically leaning against this wall trying to look nonchalant while whatever it is goes past us to get to the other door.
Well, it does seem quite a large pipe. It's going to fit quite a few people, that, isn't it?
We'll get two abreast in it easily, I would have thought. I mean, the water was gushing out quite quickly out of it, so I mean, we might have to have a think about how we do it. But
well, you get your boots washed. Look at it that way.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, no problem. I could keep a watch from there.
And the other option's on the water. Is if we get some sort of rowboat and we actually sit on the water and watch from sort of just out in the water a bit.
No, I don't like boats.
The rest of us could hide in a boat under the jetty or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We could put sort of Pickle's a lot boisterous today. Pickle, be quiet.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we have the option. Some of us could be in a boat, and some of us could be in the pipe, I suppose, couldn't we?
Well, yeah. Did you, Caddo? Was there a little ladder that went down off the jetty towards the pipe? Is it like a somewhere that somebody services?
I couldn't see that well, but I think we're climbing down. It's sort of a 3-4 foot climb down into the pipe, and then the pipe's sort of 5 foot above the water. But I mean, it's a job for an agile person, certainly.
Okay,
probably not a portly Kessig.
Yeah, you can tell it would take a little bit of manoeuvring to get down onto there. To put it this way, if you wanted to jump on top of the pipe, you'd have to take a fairly big, it's like a 5 foot jump to get from the jetty onto the top of the pipe itself, and then you'd have to try and drop down somehow.
Otherwise, it's a walk in the park.
Has anybody got a ladder?
And I will say it looked very slippery.
Thank you for that. We could always bring a ladder, couldn't we?
Well, there's plenty of places to pick up a ladder if you really want one.
Yeah, we could acquire a ladder, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I say we get a shimmy on and get back up to the
let's
church.
get back to the bish anyway, yeah, so... Off to the Bish it is.
Yeah, so you travel up through the town. The harbour is bustling. It is full of life, full of energy. There's ships unloading. There's ships being loaded up. So there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of foot traffic around this area. Definitely not. I mean, it's a pretty kind of easy conclusion to jump to that if you're trying to sneak around, the day is probably not going to be the time you're doing that, simply because the amount of activity that's happening in this area. Unless you were very skilled at sneaking and you were able to kind of work your way through the crowds. But it's a very busy area. So you make your way back up to the church. What time did we say it was?
Must be mid-morning by now, I'd have thought.
Well, if not later.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I might have missed second breakfast.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's going to be at least kind of like 12:30, 1 o'clock now.
Yeah, my stomach's
Yeah,
rumbling.
you make your way back. You make your way back up to the church, enter through the doors, and yeah, you're back in the church. It's very quiet. You maybe see a couple of devout older people who are wandering around, perhaps praying or sat in some of the pews. But other than that, it's very, very quiet.
Oh, does anybody remember the bishop's name?
Gerhart.
Gerhart, thank you very much. Any of you can we see His Holiness anywhere? I mean, obviously we've walked into the church, so I'm going to do my usual straight up the chancery and supplicate myself on the floor in front
Sounds
of the altar.
painful, doesn't it? Straight up the chancery.
Yeah, straight up the chancery. No messing. Followed by supplicating myself.
So, Caddo, make me a knowledge religion check.
Oh, that's another good one.
Should be, you're a cleric.
Which is how we get 19 all in.
Yeah, that's good. So I mean, you go up, you perform your usual kind of routine when you enter a church, and you kind of, give your thanks to everything. You go up and give your thanks, and you'd know, having spent time obviously in the church, you'd know that probably around midday, it's probably going to be around the time when the person in charge, the priest in charge, is going to be doing confessionals. They'll probably be in the confessional booth. And if it's not the person in charge, it'll be someone who can tell you where they are.
Excellent. Right, so I shall recover myself from my supplanted position. And,
Yep.
So, Kewin, I would imagine that the bish will be, or at least whoever he's got on watch today, will be in the confessional, taking confession. Clearly, none of us need to confess, but perhaps we wait until the next punter leaves the confessional, and then we give it a gentle tap on the door, find out what's going on.
Yes, I'll stand over there.
He does seem to be more responsive to you than he is for me, for some reason.
Ah, right, okay, yes, well, we'll see.
I mean, I'd hope he'd see us. We've got all of his stuff back.
Oh yes, I mean, if he can't see me stood by the confessional, then maybe we need to find him some glasses.
I personally think, says Elora, whispering loudly, I personally think you should just haul him out of his confessional now. I'm sure he'd be more interested in getting his stuff back.
Oh no, you can't do that.
No, think about the poor person who's actually making confession, Elora. I mean, they're opening their heart up to their God. The last thing they need is a disruption. I'm sure we can wait a few moments.
I'd really like to just get this dealt with.
Right, sit in a pew. We'll be with you in a minute. I think you'll find there's a good book to read if you...
Yeah, right. She's going to turn round and go and dump herself in the pew. She's going to dump her backside down quite heavily and go, huh, grunt.
If you go to chapter 37, there's some good magic tricks. Water into wine, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so I dropped out there slightly. What are you doing?
Kewin is waiting by the confessional for the next punter to leave.
And Elora wants him to
okay.
hurry up to just yank the priest out, but
Yeah,
we
we've-
said no.
Yeah, we've talked Elora out of manhandling the bish, so she's gone to read the
Okay.
good book.
Yep. Okay, so Kewin, you are stood outside of the confessional booth. Are you doing anything in particular? You're just kind of standing there and waiting.
I'm just going to be stood there, and I'm going to be just looking around, and sort of like, as per usual, sort of blank expression on my face, as if this is all lovely, and just look around at the church while I'm waiting.
Okay, so how long are you going to stand there for?
Well, it depends. I should.
Is there noise coming from the confessional?
Is there a noise? Yeah. I shall be listening to see if there's any voices, and once the voices stop, I will go in.
Kewin, just make some noise.
Can I hear any voices inside?
Okay, no, you can't hear any voices inside at all.
So I'll turn to Kedar and say, I don't think there's anybody in there.
Oh.
I'll just give it a knock, shall I? And I'm going to go.
Yeah, left-hand door.
Elora's going to turn to Ogvar and roll her eyes and go, God, finally.
Hello there. Anybody in?
You don't hear any noise from inside.
Ogvar is
I'm gonna
also
come back.
sat in a pew with Elora. Will just open up Orland and take out 2 pastries. Offer one to Elora.
Yeah.
Esther, do you want a pastry?
No, thank you, dearie. I find my stomach is turning at the moment.
Oh, okay, all right. That's not a problem. I just this is quite welcome.
So there's 2 doors, Kewin. Should we open one each, see if we can find anybody?
Well, there's nobody in this side, so I'll can't see anybody in the other side.
Oh, Caddo, just storm the confessionals. Get on with it.
There's nobody in here. So I'm just trying to think. The vestry is the next place to try, isn't it? If there's nobody obviously in the main church. Can you remember where the vestry was? I think it was up to the right.
Yeah, we'll go and have a look there.
Yep, right. So myself and Kewin take a wander into the vestry.
Okay. So, you take a wander. Did you actually... Okay, never mind. I'm not going to mention anything now at this point.
No, we didn't. No, nobody did actually open any doors, so he might be in there having a nap, for all we know.
I went in.
Or dead.
Kewin did go in. Sorry, Kewin went in. The left-hand door.
You went in
You
which...
went in the left-hand door.
The left hand. Okay, where the...
Where you'd
okay.
expect the
So
bishop
if
to
you...
be. Right-hand door would be parishioner, wouldn't it? Have I got that right? I'm not Catholic. Left-hand door,
I
priest.
have no idea.
I think it's left-hand door priest, right-hand door parishioner.
I'm going to have to Google this now, because I'm now...
Depends on whether you're sat
Hang
in them
on.
or looking at them.
Yeah,
I think as you're looking at them,
and I suppose it depends where you put your confessional booth. The priest normally sits at the
'cause-
altar end of the confessional, don't they? Is that right?
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Uh,
In which case, Kewin opened the door closest to the altar.
yeah, so I think as you're looking at it, the side on the left is the side where the parishioner goes. The side on the right is where the priest goes. So if you've opened the left-hand door looking at it, there is nobody in there.
Right, well, I'm going to go in and go, hello?
Yep. What is it, whippersnapper?
Ah, there you are. We've just got back, and we've got some of your stuff, I believe. And we've got a few things we need to talk to you about. Is there now the right time?
Well, if you found anything of significance, whippersnapper,
Oh, yes.
other than stuff.
Yes, and we've also found a letter. And apparently, somebody's been eating people, even children.
Okay, whippersnapper. Okay, whippersnapper. I believe we should probably take this conversation elsewhere. Right, follow me.
Okay. Come on, everybody.
And you hear
follow me. Oh.
you hear the door on the other side of the bit of the confessional booth open, and all of you see Bishop Gerhart emerge. Again in his long kind of white silver robes, And he looks at all of you kind of clustered around. Takes you in, looks at the state of you and goes, right, well, follow me. And he very, very slowly shuffles towards he shuffles off and he leads you into his private quarters. So you go up a flight.
Elora's just going to brush the crumbs off onto the floor off the front of her cloak.
Yeah. So he leads you up a flight of stairs, opens a door into what is his private quarters, and invites you to sit around a table. And it's a big oaken table with kind of very rigid, high-backed chairs, very uncomfortable chairs. Perhaps they would have been used in, when he was hosting important visitors or hosting, other priests. But this is a very, I say it's an opulent looking room. It's not extravagant. It doesn't reek of wealth. It doesn't there's no gold fixtures or fittings anywhere. It's not like Piggy in what was his name?
Oh, I know who you mean. Lord, whatever his name was.
In Drunel.
Yeah, in
Lord
Drunel.
Piggy.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Enoch Ballantyne, I
That's
think
him.
it was.
That's right.
Yeah. It's not the kind of opulence of the Ballantyne mansion, but it's a very kind of understated, regal, simple looking room. You have holy accoutrements, you've got kind of the odd tapestry which is threaded with silver thread, but they're holy items. They're very much kind of part of the job, you would say. You can tell that he hasn't gone out and lavishly spent the church's money. It's just what he's got and it's looked after well. So yeah, it's a fairly nice room, and he leads you in and he gestures to you to take a seat.
Which Elora will do.
Yeah, my lord.
Yep. So you all take your seats, and he doesn't do the thing of sitting at the head of the table. He just picks himself a seat kind of closest to, but he picks a seat close to Esther, and he just sits there and he goes, well, whippersnappers, I take it you have news. Better share it.
Elora's going to reach into her cloak pocket. She's going to take out the letter from her cloak pocket. She's going to slap it down on the table, not hard, but enough to make a slapping sound. Push it in towards the centre of the table with her middle finger. It will have the seal side up, and she's going to flick it across the table to the bishop and say to him, We found this. I believe that we recognise the seal, and we have read the contents, and I think this may answer some of your questions, but then it may raise others. And she's just going to look at him, raise her eyebrows, see what he's going to do.
So Gerhart reaches out with one hand, and his hand, he's got this slight tremor in the hand, which you could probably say is from old age. He's not a spry guy, he's really quite aged. And his hand, it's full of kind of leathery wrinkles, but it's very clean, very pale, very white, very evenly trimmed nails. It's the hand of someone who hasn't done any particularly hard work. They haven't done hard labour. No lifting or moving things or swinging a sword. It's the hand of someone who has lived their entire life serving Avacyn. And he reaches his hand out with these trembling hands, and he touches the letter with his fingertips, drags it towards him, and picks it up. He looks at the seal, and you see his face kind of... it hardens in resignation. He has clearly recognised this seal. He clearly knows, what family is associated with this seal. It's something he'd have probably seen for most of his life, being friends with the previous Lord Axum. Arthur Axum, yeah. But this would be something he'd know like the back of his own hand, really. And with these kind of trembling fingers, he opens it up. And he's kind of... He sits there and he stares at the paper. And he exhales through his nose. And this kind of very, very long suffering sigh. Folds the letter back up, puts it back on the table. I think, whippersnappers, you can see why we have a problem here.
One thing that we can't tell you, Bish, is we did exactly what it said on the piece of paper.
He looks at you. This kind of looks through his bushy eyebrows at you. He goes, You did. You have everything.
And this Ogvar will stand up and go, well, I believe so. And then he will open Orland and start taking bits out. And go, well, we've got this one, and we've got this one, and we've got one of these, and one of those, and another one of those, and this thing, and he keeps going until it's all sort of laid out across the table.
Okay. Yeah, so you now have obviously this all laid out in front of you. Swords, mugs, cloaks, eyeballs. Yeah. You lay this out and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 11 items on the table in front of you. And he looks at them and he nods his head, and you see kind of, it's this very, very elderly motion. It looks very fragile, very frail, almost in the way he moves. He goes, well, whippersnappers, I'm glad to see these items again. I'm overjoyed that you have brought them back to us, to Avacyn's fold. And I can only commend you for doing so. But I am afraid this is not everything that we once held. This is a small selection. And judging by, the evidence you've brought to me, I can only assume that the rest of the items have vanished into the City Lord's possession.
Well, we know where he lives. Don't we? Do we? You must know where he's located.
I believe everyone in the city knows where the City Lord is located.
How big's the city guard?
Oh, well, recently, as part of the church losing power, so to speak, we've had more and more of our Cathars leaving. Our force is now only 10 strong, and not some of the bravest nor brightest, I will freely admit. But they are good people. But in this time period, the city guard has grown from 300 to in excess of 500 individuals now.
I take it that these are controlled by the City Lord?
Well, not directly. They do not receive their orders directly from the City Lord, no, but they go through, their captains of the guard, and then they go through to, head of City Watch, or head of whichever department the City Lord decides to make next, whippersnapper. It's, yes.
So it would have to be stealth then, more than straight, outright force.
Well, I do not doubt your prowess nor Avacyn's faith in you, sir, but I think that 500 men is too much for even, for anyone. The odds are not fair in that situation, I'm afraid.
There is, of course, the other issue of the room.
Yeah, there is another problem.
So, your Endmans, we found your items in a warehouse down by the waterfront after quite an exciting ride in some trucks. And unfortunately, your artifacts weren't the only thing in the room. We also found several dead bodies.
You see his brow as you say this. It kind of crinkles in kind of a what kind of situation when you talk about the trucks. He's not sure what you're on about there.
Look.
But as you mention the dead bodies, his eyebrows raise up his forehead, and you can see his eyes now in their entirety. They're no longer kind of overshadowed by his drooping eyelids. And he looks at you. He goes, "Bodies."
Look, let's level with you.
What bodies would those be?
Well, let's level with you. We went down to your vault to have a look, opened the door, which, by the way, here's your keys back. But you can't store anything else down there because there's like a concealed door in the wall which leads to this corridor, and the corridor leads to this like underground mine type affair. It's not very big. We got on these mine carts, went on a bit of a mental cart ride that I never want to go on again, and then it ended up bringing us out by the dockside. There's a room, it looked like a warehouse or something, which is where we found the letter and all of your goods and chattels that we've managed to fetch back for you. But when he says there were dead bodies, well, there were no bodies. They'd been, well, eaten. They were just bones that had been gnawed on by some... There were some footprints. It looked like some kind of weird rat kind of person that perhaps morphs into a rat or something. I don't know much about these things. But we left via the docks and we've come back up here, and that's about the size of it. What do you want us to do next? We can't leave this were-rat thing running around eating citizens. And you're still missing goods. What do you want us to do?
Throughout your best little kind of speech to him, his eyebrows have been doing, his hairy caterpillars have been doing the caterpillar throughout this conversation. They've been pulling all sorts of weird shapes. But he looks at you. I appreciate your bluntness, whippersnapper. And, lads, stop calling me your eminence. Just call me Gerhart for Averson's sake. None of that rubbish. I think that if you are willing to undertake the challenge, I understand. If you are not, it is a tough ask, even for the most hardy of Cathars. But I cannot let Averson's people, I cannot let them suffer under the City Lord, under this foul being. I cannot do that. And if I do, I shall be cast into the Shadowfell.
So what do you...
I believe that, if I may ask it of you, there are 2 jobs which must be done, or 3 jobs that must be done. The church needs its property back. Without its property, we have no power, we lose our reputation. For Averson's sake, we must have the items back, and to save them falling into hands of Skurstag and such evils. Secondly, this foul being needs to be vanquished, needs to be expunged from this plane, from Innistrad. It cannot be permitted to exist. And thirdly, the City Lord. Something must be done to curb his power. My hands are tied, so to speak. I cannot be seen to be doing anything out of the norm. I do not have the manpower. The manpower I have is at your disposal. Use them as you wish. You can brief them. They are all good, trustworthy people. So they are at your command, and I shall tell them as such. But I cannot be seen to be moving at this point in time. Otherwise, I fear that the City Lord shall take further steps. The only advice I can give you is that there are some within the underground arena who may have information or ways of infiltration, subterfuge, assassination, whatever it may be. You may be able to find some resources there. But as I say, whatever I can give you to help with the manpower, items, the ones you've recovered, you're more than welcome to utilize them on your quest if you wish to help. Just say the word, but I am unable to complete this on my own.
Well, no offence, Bish, but I kind of wasn't expecting you to go after them. With all due respect.
Just called him Bish.
Yeah.
You went from calling him Bish to saying with all due respect in the same sentence.
Yep. It's good for me.
That's like saying, in all due respect, fuck off.
Are there any of these pieces here? Are there any of them that have got a bit of power, just in case?
With the door locks dissolved, the 5 friends free themselves of the dirt and depravity of the storeroom. Stepping out into the fresh salty air, they found themselves on a wooden walkway down by the docks and begin to discuss ways in which they might apprehend and put pay to the feasting foe. Resolutely, they returned to the House of Avacyn, carrying the church's commandeered curios and collectibles, and it was with heavy hearts and hard facts that the team did not pull any punches in delivering the devastating news of the nasty Nightcrawler and their shocking dockside discoveries. Unable to unsee Axum, the Nepharia's noble, from his position of power as Solholf City Lord, Bishop Gerhart asks our adventurers for assistance in an attempt to tackle the treachery.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Having you as a listener means everything to us. So, whichever streaming service you choose to listen to us with, please give us a like, subscribe and follow. We would love for you to join us on our Facebook or Twitter page, where you can catch up with all of our latest news. While you're waiting for the next episode of Secrets of the Silver City, why not pop over to our website, where you can read all of the information about this campaign, from backstories to setting. All of the links are in the bio of this episode. Join us again next week for the next instalment. Thank you for listening.